this will allow us to circle back. I've always said, Lucinda, in my life, that if people understood and got familiar with cultures around the world,
Mhm.
we'd have less of the violence and the upheaval because a lot of that is done out of ignorance.
Right.
And we can learn. There's not one country in Africa or wherever I've worked, and I've worked in, many other countries not named, that I didn't learn something worthwhile.
Hello, and welcome to Story Power, a bi monthly podcast I created because I'm an unabashed story lover. Stories have had a huge impact on my life, starting with the family movie night discussions my parents instituted when I was a child. I want to share that love with you. As cognitive scientist Roger C. Shanks says, humans are not ideally set up to understand logic. They are ideally set up to understand stories. I'm making it my mission to not only spread the love of stories, but all the valuable things they teach us about human nature and relationships. We humans are emotional creatures, and stories help us examine our emotions from a comfortable distance. They also help us walk in the shoes of the characters to help us see the world in new ways. It's my hope you gain some valuable insights from my guests. Hello, Story Power listeners. Today is episode 146, and I'm talking to Barry Mom. So we're talking about Barry's book, Beneath the African Sun. And I read it and thought, oh my goodness, you two are so adventurous, you and your wife Suzanne, because I'm not sure I mean, we were talking before I started recording that Barry and I took a trip circumnavigating the globe in 1996, but we didn't go to Africa. So, uh, uh, so I'm really interested to hear your experiences and uh, yeah, because you lived for quite a while in Ethiopia. So you want to just start telling your story where you want to begin it?
Okay. Okay. Very nice to be with you, Lucinda. First and foremost, I'd like my book to dispel a lot of myths about the African continent. The African continent itself, yes, is the home of many animals and exciting places, but is also the home of some wonderful, giving, caring people. Um, and beyond which we could not have made our journey. And I say that in all sincerity. We really arrived in Alexandria, Egypt, fully wanting to just drive across to Morocco to winter there. And then, goodness knows, to do what else after that. We were in Alexandria getting ourselves ready for the trek when a person by the name of Muammar Gaddafi decided to launch a coup against King Idris and close the borders therewith. So that marked the end of that, and we decided what we would do next. Returning to Europe was really not an option. That smelled too much of defeatism,
Mhm.
and we've never been one to give up on projects. Thanks to um, my then wife Suzanne, who was a real trooper, and I could not have done this as the book dedication is without her, with her daring do and not giving up kind of spirit. So, but it's funny. I also call this a trip of serendipity because there's so many things happened along the way to get us started that propelled us ever southward, first to Ethiopia, And then after a period of 5 years as an international foreign journalist, led us all the way down to South Africa, Cape Agulhas, with our 1 year old then in tow. I had met a chap on the cruise that we had taken from Barcelona around the Mediterranean littoral, and just wanting to see a little bit of the other parts of the Mediterranean before, landing in Alexandria and driving across the North African littoral. One of the chaps that I met was an army general by the name of Ibrahim El Tahawi. Well, not to be disparaging, but in the Middle East, uh, generals are a dime a dozen. So I didn't really know who he was. All I knew is that we got along like a house of fire. And day after day, we would sit and chat, and I got to meet his wife, and always surrounded by a cadre of military bearing men. I didn't know why at the time, but we just struck it off. And at the end of it, when we arrived in Alexandria, he said, "Hey, if you're ever in Cairo, hook me up." Well, a lot of people in conversations like that, that's a polite way to do it. When we got the surprise of surprises in Alexandria, that became more of an option. And looked at his card. And when we got to Cairo and said, president of the Young Men's Muslim Association. I said, okay, well, just like the YMCA president. Okay. Big mistake on my part. But anyway, got to his office and was immediately ushered in. I said, "Oh, this is good. He remembers me." And then got introduced to more than half of the Egyptian cabinet. Mahmoud Fauzi, Minister of Health, goodness knows who else. We just sat around and chatted, not about politics or economics. We just, well, how do you like this? Have you ever seen this? That what have you ever wanted to see in Egypt? And it was just fabulous. So I got to talking about what we'd like to see, and my friend Ibrahim picks up the phone, and in comes a Lieutenant Basri, who was then instructed to meet us every day for as long as we wanted, and to be our chauffeur in a air-conditioned limousine to everything we wanted to see in and around Cairo. And this included the Sphinx, the pyramids, the Cairo Museum, uh, even seeing an Egyptian play, which was an experience in and of itself. And I said, well, that's all well and good, but where is he going to pick us up? Because we don't have a place to park our Kombi bus. He said, no problem. And he said, there's a very posh um, playground out in one of the islands in the Nile called the Gezira Club, and here's some keys, and you can have a full run of the toilets and whatever you need. And Lieutenant Basri knows where it is, and come and pick you up every day. So it was like a magical carpet ride. We just saw everything we ever wanted to see, and when it got time for us to move on, um, Ibrahim provided us with first class tickets to Aswan in the south of Egypt, and provided transport for our camper bus, Bridget, and who arrived about 2 days after us with a guard standing over her to make sure that she arrived safely. And so, that propelled us ever southwards to the point where there was no turning back. It was just a matter of day by day doing what we needed to do to make it further south. Because a friend in Ethiopia had told us if we ever get that far south, he would be more than happy to put us up until we found our way. So on and on and on we went. But maybe I need to give you time to get another question in here.
Oh, well, no, I was fascinated because, yes, how I thought it was serendipitous too. A lot of the things that happened to you that as I was reading the book, but to the two of you, especially when you were taking your trip south to South Africa through all those countries, it was like, oh, that was an interesting little serendipitous thing that happened. But one thing I wanted to ask is what made you stay in Ethiopia? Because I've kind of forgotten now. It's been a couple months since I read the book.
Lucinda, we're talking about serendipitous events, and there was another one. Here I am out of work, a little low on cash, and on the outskirts of Addis Ababa, the capital, I start hearing this radio station, Radio Voice of the Gospel. And I said, I'm a trained journalist, radio broadcaster. I can do that. And I must give credit to my late mentor, Ken Stewart, who I fronted up and out of the blue, and he gave me a job on the spot. And so that's what led me, and that really took my career up because I was one of three embedded journalists to cover the creeping coup against the Emperor Haile Selassie.
Yeah.
And I was able to write for such outfits as the Financial Times out of a London newspaper out of London,
Mhm.
and AP, UPI, Voice of America, New Zealand Broadcasting, because there was only a few of us for them to choose from. I'm not putting myself up as a big shot. Hey, there's only three of us, and
Yeah.
the other two were British. Therefore, they had the BBC and all that side pretty well,
Right.
yeah, sewn up. So I got to do that for my 5 years, the first 2 years, until I re-upped. And it was between the second and the third terms, or the first and second, excuse me, that that I took the trip from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to down to Cape Town, South Africa. And of course, by this time, um, we had our firstborn, Kevin, in tow. He
Mhm.
celebrated his first birthday in Nairobi in a game park there. And he was our ambassador. He was a towhead. He was gregarious, never met a person he didn't like. And he was a natural, oh, how do I put it? he he attracted the attention of the locals. Let's put it that way, because he was a towhead. He
Mhm.
was, light skinned, and I think it was is epitomized by the one time we were in southern Sudan in the land of the Dinka Nilotic people, and you were always looking for a place to be kind of off on our own. Not that we're antisocial, not that. But it was just nice to have some time to ourselves while we're getting lunch in this case.
Mhm.
And suddenly we realized that, well, that's not going to happen in Africa. You're always the subject of intense scrutiny. Very friendly, never had an untoward situation. However, there were about like 20, 30 people respectfully looking on in a circle. And, but one of them was a woman with a child about the same age as Kevin. And her reticence was overcome by the fascination of seeing this little boy with white hair and white skin. And she came closer and closer. And my wife, as a mother, seemed to know that there was no danger here. And she reached out lovingly and touched the side of his face, and they exchanged babies. And people say to me to this day, "Well, why didn't you take a picture?" One, I didn't want to spoil the mood, but secondly, you couldn't do it surreptitiously. You get your single
Right.
lens reflex out and all the f stops and all. Not like
Right.
nowadays where you've got a cell phone and you could, and the person doesn't even know it. Uh,
Right.
so, but it was, and this goes full cycle to what I want people to get out of the book. We're all the same under the skin. She loved her child no more, no less
Mhm.
than we loved our child.
Mhm.
And she would never done anything to harm our child as we would never do anything to harm her child.
Yeah.
And we found this throughout our journeys, be out in the middle of Ethiopia, people living in a little tukul, a round hut.
Mhm.
And through an interpreter, I was on assignment then, I asked, well, what do you want out of life? I want 3 meals a day for my children. I want to have them have a better life than I had and my wife has had.
Mhm.
I want no government intrusion or as little as possible.
Mm.
And I don't want my son being sent off to some foreign war to die.
Mm.
Duh. Hello. You know,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
resonated. But here we had nothing else in common, be it religion or
Mhm.
ethnicity or culture or whatever. But we had that. And
Yeah.
that's the essence of life. And my children grew up as minorities in Ethiopia and on our travels, and this has held them in good stead throughout their life. And they're both very successful in their lives, both in their mid
Mhm.
50s. And
Mhm.
that's what I want people to get out of the book. It's not a Mondo Cane type of book. It's nothing to be afraid of. You just have to be aware of your surroundings and be willing to understand that you are in their territory.
Mhm.
Okay. So you don't act as a big shot. You don't try to pull rank. You are very grateful for the help that they would always give you. No matter
Mhm.
where we got in strife, you'd always have people appear and wanting nothing in return, want to help you through your situation.
Yeah.
And I felt compelled to write the book, even though we're one of maybe a handful of people who have done what we did. But it was not the big I am. It's just to let people know that these are wonderful folks. Like in many parts of the world, the most problem we had was crossing borders with the governments.
Yeah,
Those are the
right.
ones you had to watch out for. But it wasn't the rank and file people. They would give you half of what they didn't have.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
that was a real impetus to write the book and to let people know that yeah, these are great folks, and they may not have as much as we have intrinsically, but they've got in many cases a lot more than we have.
Yes.
Devotion to family and whatever, and
And to
so
their communities.
yes,
Mhm. Yeah. Now, I was a little confused though. When you went to South Africa, did you go back to Ethiopia? Because wasn't Angelina born in
yes,
Addis
very good
Ababa?
point, Lucinda. Okay, I'll
Oh,
give you the years.
okay.
1969, we started out in Egypt
Uh-huh.
and got to Addis Ababa around late 1969, early 1970. I signed a 2 year local contract with the Voice of America. So that meant, sorry, with Radio Voice of the Gospel.
Uh-huh.
That meant that in 72, I had to leave the country in order to get a foreign contract. So in 1972, with Kevin in tow, because he was born in 1971,
Uh-huh.
he we then went to South Africa. As the paperwork was done, I went to work at Deutsche Welle in Germany for a
Oh,
bit. And then when my contract was signed, we returned to Addis Ababa for 1972 through 1975.
oh
And
yeah.
from 1975, I then traveled on to Australia, my homeland, and then on to New Zealand, where I worked for New Zealand Broadcasting Corporation from 1975 to 1976. And then I was headhunted by the English to Africa service of the Voice of America in Washington. And I spent my last 25 years with them, ending up as service chief.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's such a great career. Now, your wife was
Yes.
working too, wasn't she, when you were in Ethiopia?
Oh, yes, yes. Um, she has had two degrees, one in mathematics and
Ah,
another one in computer science. And
oh,
she taught mathematics in Addis Ababa.
uh-huh.
And um, and then in her second sprint there, she also taught at another school again in mathematics and became the headmaster of that school.
Oh,
So,
oh,
you
wow.
know, and we were able to do it because of fantastic domestic servants
Hmm.
who just loved on our children. And that has been inculcated in them as well.
Yeah.
Geez, I was the first go around was in a local establishment with it was a little building of mud and chica soil
Hmm.
and sticks. And
Uh-huh.
we didn't have indoor plumbing or anything. We lived it rough. Kevin came home in a top of a box
Oh,
and with
that's
some
great.
swaddling blankets around him, and
Yeah.
that's how he was. But we had a wonderful, wonderful mamiti servant called Amsela. And many's the day that I would come home and she'd be just walking and singing to our son. And I asked one day what the lyrics were, and she says, "Oh, my little sweetheart, may Jesus hold you in his arms as I am holding you." And of course, on the weekends he wasn't there, Kevin was looking for her, because he grew to love her, and it was tough when uh, when we left to
Oh,
go
yeah.
south to Kenya and then on to South Africa.
Yeah. Now, I have a question because my sister and I are about to record um, uh, for my other YouTube channel about it's called Classic Cinema with the Sage Sisters, and we're going to be talking about Mississippi Masala, and it starts in 72 in Uganda. And I was wondering, did you go through Uganda during that time
Oh
when Idi
yes,
Amin
yes,
was?
yes. Had a frightful time arriving in Uganda, talking about crossing borders being the chap at the border was holding our passports upside down and kind of looking at them and and my
Oh,
wife started
that's
to giggle and I kind of gave her a little nudge on the side. Um, but as long as we didn't embarrass him by, yeah, and we still have it in our passports, boom, upside down stamps.
yeah,
But we had a wonderful time in Uganda, marred only by the fact that Idi Amin
yeah.
was in power, and that made things. Look, let me make this clear. There was no outright threat to us during our time there.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, but I did, during my time as East Africa correspondent for the Financial Times, I uh, met a young person and I've been supporting his family for about 30 years now. And all his children are one's through college, another one's about ready to enter college. And so my ties to Uganda go back and they're deep. And I love the people. I love the
Hmm.
culture. The banana story will give you an idea of they're tough to deal with.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought I
I've,
bought the whole stalk of bananas
uh-huh.
and I paid my money, and And suddenly he was not giving me my stalk of bananas. And I said, "Ooh, what's going on here?" All I was actually buying was the bananas themselves. So I was able to put them in a sack, and come to find out, the stalk is very prized because the taste of whatever banana you have is in the stalk. So they crack that
Oh.
open, they get out all the mush, and
Uh-huh.
they pound it, and that becomes a dessert. So I didn't realize that
Oh,
I was he was out to cheat me.
right.
But by his standards, I was just buying the bananas. I wasn't buying the stalk. So, but we had a wonderful, wonderful time in Uganda. Exited for 1 day into Democratic Republic of the Congo. That's
Uh-huh.
another chapter, and came back into Uganda, and then down to uh, venture around the Ruwenzori Mountains, Mountains of the Moon.
Mhm.
So Uganda is, yes, that was one of the the most wonderful places that we visited
Mhm.
along our path.
Well, it's probably very different now that because he was only in office until 79, right? I was just reading
Oh
about
yes,
that.
yes, yeah, and things have, because I get a very good opportunity to know what's going on there through my friend, who
Right.
we what's up, and
Right.
through getting money to him, and the whole thing.
Yeah.
Uh, Things have improved immensely there,
Oh.
um, but it's still nice that I'm able to help him raise his family of 5 children, and will do so until things end. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
All things
Mhm.
end. Um,
Yeah.
he's he's quite old by Ugandan standards. He's 78, and that's
Oh.
quite old. We have a term in East Africa called shemagale. He's a shemagale, an old man. In but we've taken care of that. One of his nephews is quite promising, and he'll take over if anything happens to my Jimmy. So
Yeah.
I still maintained close contacts with the continent,
Mhm.
um, and I've learned a lot, and I thank my experiences there for fast tracking my career,
Yeah,
because
really.
that's quite the hat to uh, be able to say that you were only one of three that covered the
Mhm.
entire coup against the emperor, and they covered such things as the uh, devastating drought in Wollo
Oh,
province, where millions, hundreds of thousands of people died. So
and I was wondering how the government didn't figure out what you were doing because you didn't talk about that in the book when you were going up to give. Didn't you take supplies up there too?
well, yeah, that was one of. Sometimes you have to take a chance in life. You got to be true to yourself. We knew that hundreds of thousands of people are dying up there, and here we are, a Christian radio station,
Uh-huh.
and casting a blind eye to it. And so, two or three of us decided that on our own we would just get permission to leave,
Uh-huh.
because we had a small staff, so we depended on a lot of other people to help us
Yeah.
take time off. I had been instrumental in um, cooperating with many international aid organizations. And I was allowed to go up with one of them. As you can probably tell, I'm quite swarthy. And so I could kind of, put on a gabi and
Hmm.
hide myself off. And the only stipulations were that I didn't open my mouth, and I just sat back. And when I had asked for my credentials, I gave the credentials, and whatever. And so
Hmm.
I was able to go up there and unfortunately cover um, scenes that I'd rather not uh, recall. But in any job was into there's aspects of it that just come with the territory, and you have to deal with it. And
Yeah.
I was able to take a picture of that woman and her baby, and it went viral, as the youngsters say today. Went viral,
That's right.
and that helped um, in some measure um, take the lid off the of the pot, and leading to television coverage, mainly by the BBC's Jonathan Dimbleby, who
Mhm.
and that a picture's worth 1,000 words. And then the aid really started to flow in, and that was one of the things that really was towards the end for Emperor Haile Selassie, because in his mind, um, Ethiopia is a Garden of Eden. Nothing bad ever happened there.
Right.
Well, bad things happen everywhere,
Yeah. Right.
and for him to, say to the world that it didn't, and then try to stop international aid agencies from delivering aid to desperate people. This was just another nail in the coffin, if you will. So
Yeah.
I felt at the end of it that you have to live with yourself. As much as I enjoy the work with Radio Voice of the Gospel, I had to do what I had to do.
Yeah,
And,
really.
excuse me.
Hmm.
Anyway, I mean, it was just a complicated time to work in Ethiopia because you're always at the you're always at the mercy of the emperor, because he was our patron. But that meant that you never did anything to displease him,
Hmm.
and so I ran the risk of not only my own career but helping to close down the radio station. But it didn't come to that, and all's well that ends well, and we were able to leave in 1975, and we just we're just very, very thankful that we were able to overcome and be cognizant of all the things going on around us, and not sticking our nose in where it didn't belong.
Hmm.
And that we did, and I'll always remember the wonderful times we had in Ethiopia. And I went back once, but it's like Wolf said, you can never go back again. It was different.
Hmm.
I didn't recognize Addis Ababa. All the places that I had frequented would have been ripped down, and skyscrapers put up in their stead, and
Oh,
whatever.
wow.
So, but I'll always look at the continent as a fantastic place that that helped launch my career.
Yes. Now, when you left Ethiopia, where did you land with your family?
Okay. We drove to South Africa, and I had trouble selling the car. When you have a vehicle in foreign countries, you have to get something called a carnet de passage. And that means that you are legally obligated to sell the car and to pay the local taxes
Hmm.
before leaving the country. So my wife then took the children to stay back in the US, and I went to Germany, awaiting while working for Deutsche Welle in Cologne,
Mm.
um, the second contract
Mhm.
to happen. And when it happened, then we were reunited in Ethiopia again.
Mhm.
So sometimes things can be circuitous, but if you have a plan, it generally works out. And then after 75, like I said, I went back to visit family in Australia, my homeland. And then through my previous connections with NZBC, New Zealand Broadcasting Corporation. I was hired as a national energy correspondent there for a year. Someone traveling through Addis from the Voice of America had heard me and liked what he heard, and he went back to Washington and started the paperwork. And it took about a year for the paperwork to get finished. And then I was hired as a foreign national and got to spend the last 25 years at the Voice of America, which I enjoyed profusely. And like I said, ending as chief of the service in the last 5 years.
And where was the headquarters for that? Where were you living? What city were you living in?
Oh, the Voice of America is headquartered in Washington, D.C., and we
Oh,
lived in a nearby um, state of Maryland.
mhm.
So, and then after that, I retired and have written a few books, as you have,
Mhm.
and planning another one.
Oh,
So,
cool.
look, once a writer, always a writer. You got to keep on going, right?
Right.
This one's about we circumnavigated Australia in a motorhome, 8,000 miles.
How fun.
So, yeah. But here's an inside story. Without seeing, we saw one snake the whole time.
When you were
One
in
snake.
Australia?
Yeah.
Oh,
It was out near Alice Springs.
oh
And
yeah.
we got up early one day and went out to the Bungle Rocks, and there was this black-headed python, not a big one, just sunning himself out on the rocks, sun, like the sun. And as soon as he heard, he was off, gone. That was it.
Yep.
I not that I wanted to see any of the death adders or the
Right.
others or
Right.
the spiders. Now I did see a funnel web spider as I was in a phone
Oh.
booth, something that's gone by the boys.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
and I was just standing in the phone booth out in the outback, and I'm looking down, and I said, "Wow, there's a funnel web, poisonous, and there's a redback, poisonous." But they were just doing their thing. I wasn't live and
Right.
let live. Make
Right.
my call. Thank you. I'm out of here. You know.
Yeah, right. We went to Australia too because we have a friend who lives in Adelaide that we went to college with. And
Oh,
so
Adelaide, great.
yeah, and of course we were going from India to Australia, so that was quite a flight. And we had to stay in Sydney for a little while because we were sick after India. But then we took a train ride to Adelaide, and Adelaide was just lovely. We loved it. I wish we could
Right.
have gone more to other places, but we had only a certain amount of time that we could be gone, and so. But
Well,
yeah,
Adelaide is Adelaide of all. Now, you may not understand this. Of all the cricket grounds in Australia, the Adelaide Cricket Ground is the most beautiful with the clock and the whole. It's absolutely beautiful. And in just 3 days, the third test match against England will begin.
oh
Oh
wow,
yeah. Hey, you can take the boy out of Oz, but you can't take Oz out of the boy.
right,
I'm
yeah,
still a cricket fanatic.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Our
Yeah. So I
friend,
mean, no, Adelaide's great with the great wide streets. And
yes,
it's been, as you know, it's been characterized as the largest small town in Australia. Because
yeah.
it has that laid back, laconic
Hmm.
kind of feel about it.
Well, and
So,
we
so if you had to choose one, you chose a good one.
Yeah, well, it just happened that that's where he lived. But when we got there, it was like, oh, this kind of looks like England a little bit.
Oh, yes, exactly. And this is not a pejorative, but they pride themselves on they're the only colony in Australia not colonized by convicts.
Right, right. Yes. I know that's
And
true.
look, in the old days, no one wanted to admit. they were convict stock. I
Right.
was convict stock. 1822. My my, my forebear from Limerick, Ireland. It was a trust up deal. It couldn't have been him. He got caught with someone else's cow. I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a minute. Jokingly, I say. And
Hmm.
he got transported over to a lovely place called Mosquito Creek outside of Sydney.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, I have nothing to do with his life. He has nothing to do with mine.
Right.
That's what started it from my family.
Right.
You know, so
Yes.
so I mean, you got to see a wonderful city. It's a lovely
Yes.
city.
It is
Did you try
beautiful.
the West End beer?
Uh, well, my husband might have. I'm not
Oh
really a
yeah,
beer
every
drinker.
city has its major city has its beer,
Uh-huh.
and they're very very passionate and very very supportive of that beer. See,
Yes. I don't remember really. I do remember we went out with Rick and his wife Deborah and some of their friends to dinner. And Barry and I just wanted a club soda, like a soda water, you know.
right, right.
And so we asked for a club soda, and the waitress was kind of confused, and she said, "Do you mean a Canadian club?" And I think Barry said, "Oh yeah, Canadian, it doesn't matter." Uh,
Oh yeah.
and Rick said, "Oh, I'll have one too." And so when it came, it was kind of a yellowish color, and I tasted and I said, I don't think this is club soda." And the waitress was so embarrassed. And Rick had already drunk like three or four, 3 or 4 sips of it by the time we discovered it. It was so funny though. Um, yeah, the
Kind of
even
an
when you
ancillary
think you're
story, if
speaking
you permit
English,
me, a real short story. My mom, after I married here in the United States, I
uh-huh,
went back to live in Australia. Anyway, so I'm heading back to see her as I did every year. And she says to me, the Sabo for Chuck and the Bobby. And I say, huh? The Sabo is for Chuck and the Bobby. So knowing Oz, because they shorten everything, okay, the Savo means this afternoon. We'll throw a chook, a chicken. Oh, of course, you know the rest on a
uh-huh,
Barbie, on the barbecue. The
right.
Savo's for cooking the Barbie, but you got to kind of slow down your brain a
Yes,
little bit to, oh,
right.
yeah, the Savo for cooking the Barbie. But it's interesting. Times change, and I think I'm using the colloquial expressions, and my nieces and nephews will say to me, Grandpa said, we don't say that anymore. Even that slang is gone. It's passe. Like I said to him, hey, we're going out. We're going to have a Bonza day. Bonza, Bonza. Well, when I was growing up, Bonza means great,
Hmm.
perfect. But for them, it was, they didn't know.
They had no
So
idea.
language changes, you know?
Yes. Yes, I was teaching high school. When I was teaching high school, I was learning a lot of really interesting slang.
Oh, yeah. When was
Yeah.
this?
I taught from 2000. Well, actually, I started in 2000 or 1998, but it was uh, an emergency certification. Then when I got my certification in 2000 till 2008. So from 1998 till 2008, I was teaching high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. Teachers are very important in our society,
Yeah.
really.
Well, when I quit teaching high school, I started teaching at the college part-time, so that I could be a writer. But yeah, it was interesting too because I was teaching at a border school. Douglas is
I,
Douglas is on the border with Agua Prieta, and a lot of the students had families still living in Mexico. So even though they were United States citizens, but
right.
most of them were. I did have some students that crossed the border to come to school. But yeah, I was learning lots of really interesting Mexican phrases and
Oh,
things
yeah,
too.
I bet your vocabulary is rich.
Well, I probably don't use those anymore, but like I had never heard of a quinceañera. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. So a quinceañera, what's a quinceañera? You know, and, Miss, you don't know what that is. And so they explained the whole thing to me. You know, the
Explain it to me. What is it?
it is when a girl turns, I think she turns 15.
Oh, yes, yes,
She has a
yes. That's a big
party.
deal.
It is a big deal.
Yes.
And yeah, so I was teaching juniors though, so most of them had already most of those girls had already had their quinceañera. But yeah, that was really interesting. It was interesting too to learn about the different holidays and you
Mhm.
know, the significance of All Saints Day for them, the Day of the Dead.
And
Because
the dead, yes.
I didn't know any of that growing up in the Pacific Northwest, you know, so
I learned a lot about that in the movie Coco,
right.
which is delightful,
It
delightful. I mean,
is.
it's getting information in the most palatable way,
Yes, right.
you
Yeah.
know, you know,
Yeah.
and look, this will allow us to circle back. I've always said, Lucinda, in my life, that if people understood and got familiar with cultures around the world,
Mhm.
we'd have less of the violence and the upheaval because a lot of that is done out of ignorance.
Right.
And we can learn. There's not one country in Africa or wherever I've worked, and I've worked in, many other countries not named, that I didn't learn something worthwhile.
Right.
And I just wish that we could all travel more and get to know and understand the people living there
Yeah. Yes.
because we'd have far fewer problems in the world.
Even inside your own country, whatever country you live in.
Oh, amen, 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 amen. I mean, and how do I knew as soon as you started explaining that Quentin Terra, is it? Uh, our best friends here in a gated community in northern Georgia, in
Uh-huh.
outside of Jasper. She, one of her granddaughters, celebrated that.
Oh, the
So
quinceañera.
this,
Yeah.
the more homogenous we
Yeah.
become,
Yeah.
the better we're we're linked to other
Right.
people, and we're not afraid because the first inkling is for most people, if you don't understand, you're afraid.
Right.
See, and if you understand more about that, and this is happening in Australia, the more that we learn about the Aboriginal culture
Hmm.
and their way of living life and
Hmm.
their respect for the land,
Yes. Oh, really?
you know, we just need to we need to reach out and just be curious, as Ted
Mhm.
Lasso said. Just be
Yes.
curious. You know,
Yeah.
that great scene about the
Yeah.
darts.
I
Just
know.
just be curious.
Yeah. Be
You know,
curious, not judgmental.
be judgmental. And boy, he really put Rupert in his place.
I know. I love that scene. Well, and you know, I taught English, and I wish I'd taught more of Walt Whitman's poems and work because, man, I've read some since I stopped teaching English at in Douglas. I taught theater first in another school, and his poems are so deep. Yeah.
What's the
So,
one about the leaves?
oh, right. Leaves of Grass, are you talking about?
No, that leaves of summer, but and Robert Frost. I've been reading a lot of Robert
Mm-hmm.
Frost as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because we need, I'm going to make a word up now, genteelness in our
Yes.
society,
Yeah.
to bevel off the rough edges and to make people delve into the more wonderful aspects of life. And maybe as I approach my 84th year here very soon, Maybe I dwell on this more than in the past, but um, if you give it a chance, this world is a wonderful place. But you
Mhm.
have to give it a chance. You have to, get rid of all your animosities and all your dislikes and because it does you no good. It just wears you down,
I know it does. Yeah.
and that's what I saw in Africa. I saw people at peace with where they were. They weren't striving for something beyond their means. That doesn't mean that they weren't trying to live a better life. It just means that they were content in their own skin.
Hmm.
And I think that's the problem with a lot of folks is that they're not content in their own skin.
Right.
And they're always grasping for something just out of reach all
Hmm.
the time, just out of reach. And they don't stop and understand that where they are is a pretty good place.
Right.
And I'm looking at, you know, we're in the mountains here and I'm looking out and the sun's setting and we can see the mountains again and our tree house is gone because the leaves have gone. And every day when I sit out there and ponder in my sunroom, wow, it's beautiful. Every day is different though,
Yes.
and um, anyway, not to get too far
No.
into that, but that's what led us through Africa. It was a knowledge that as long as we treated correctly, people
Hmm.
correctly, and we did our due diligence, that and were had all the tools to make it through, because Africa will spit you up. Oh, chuck! Oh, if you
Hmm.
don't have the right tires, if you don't have extra patch kits, if you don't have extra this or that, or a metal tow rope, you won't make it. You
I
can
know.
have all the romantic notions about the continent, but if you don't prepare, as you tell, I had that box put on top of and many was the time where we would have really come a cropper if we didn't have that. So I'm not trying to overly romanticize a continent. The continent is tough.
Hmm.
It it will bring you to your knees if you're not prepared. But if you're halfway prepared, then the peoples of Africa, in our experience, will get you the rest of the way. They
That's what
will
I.
they will just go out of their way to do everything they can to help you. And but if you try to do it alone, then it won't work. You
Right.
have to be at one with the continent. You have to appreciate it. You have to respect it. You have to give due deference to a continent that I'd like more people to go over and see. Yeah, okay. I'm not big on safaris, but if that's the only way you can see it, go on a safari. Go on. It's all right. Just get out and not just see the animals, but see the people.
Right.
See the people. And, that's the way you're really going to appreciate the continent.
Well, I mean, we didn't go to Africa on our trip around the world, but that's how it was almost every place we went.
Hmm.
Every place we went, things work differently than what we were used to. And so we'd have to stand back and kind of look around and try to figure out how things worked in that
Hmm.
country. You know, one of the places we went to was Greece. I'd always wanted to go to the theater, the theater at
I,
Epidaurus, which unfortunately we didn't get to do because Papandreou died and the whole country shut down. But
yeah.
but we were trying to find how to change our ticket so that we could extend our stay in Greece. And we were trying to find the airline, office. And
Right.
we finally figured out that it was each floor of a building was a different address. And but it took us a
Ah,
long time. We're going around, we knew we were in the right square where the building was, where the office was,
ah.
but we couldn't. Finally, we saw it. We saw we saw so that was like, oh, okay. But that's just,
Thank you for that, because we're planning to cruise to the Greek Isles
oh
next
yeah,
year,
yeah,
almost this year, and that'll hold me in good stead, as because
yeah.
I do all the handling of
The
the affairs on the crew, and my
yes,
wife
yes.
just shows up and looks beautiful. So it's a good combination.
Well,
So
that
I
was how
now
it was in Athens. I hope it's like that other places, but who knows? Who knows?
Well, listen, and Allah being a good journalist, I will give no credit to you. That will be my information. I will say to her, "Oh, honey, now you know that each story has a different ad." Oh, really? You're so smart. Uh, it's all good fun. We all feed off each other, don't we? In
That's right.
information.
We do. We
Yeah.
do. So do you have anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
Not really. The philosophical things, I think, to me, are the most important things.
Mhm.
It's as I say to my grandchildren, how do you eat an elephant ear sandwich a bite at a time? Each day you wake up, you meet that wonderful woman and her baby in South Sudan. And then the next day, you might be watching flamingos by Lake Nakuru in Kenya. And then, but you got to plan each day. You're going to have fun, but you got to plan each day. Be cognizant that you're dealing with a continent that demands the best of you. It demands that you be prepared. It demands that you be friendly, no matter the circumstances. It demands a lot of you. But if you've ever seen coming up over a rise the pyramids when you didn't expect them, or if you've ever seen the um, the falls um,
Victoria
at low
Falls?
water
Oh,
in the border of Zambia and Rhodesia, then Rhodesia,
huh.
you haven't lived. Or Mount Kilimanjaro from Amboseli, just and with the snow cone on top, and then off on the one side, you see a herd of elephants just eating up the skyline. This is there's a lot of serendipities and beautiful serendipities, but the continent makes you work for it, because all
Yes,
the places that I have described are thousands of miles apart.
right.
So you have to want to see them.
Yeah.
I was just blessed um, to have uh, my wife at the time um, with me, because I could not have done it without her, and that's why I dedicated the book to her, and to a lesser extent my my son. And I was along for the ride. I did all the driving, and she took care of the baby the second half of the trip. Um, and if you read how we got through Wadi Halfa and a lot of other places, it was tough. It was
Hmm.
tough, but all I had to do was worry about myself and Bridget, the Kombi bus, to take care of her. I didn't have to worry about an hysterical wife every day. And I'm not being misogynist. I'm just saying sometimes and you can reverse it, where one has to take care of not only the vehicle, but the other person. I
Hmm.
never had to do that. Never had to do that, because she was always by my side and willing to do everything and anything to get us on to the next part of the journey.
Hmm.
And I'll always be grateful for our time in Africa, and more importantly, to have shared it with my wife and my two children.
Yes. Oh, wow. That's so great. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Uh, I'm not at my 100% best, but you can chop and when I start coughing and whatever. But I think, as you know, as you've just said earlier, sometimes you measure yourself when you have to perform not at your very best.
Mhm.
And even I'll be 84 on the 19th, born 12 days after Pearl Harbor. Um, I still want to measure myself in my craft. And I'm sure I speak for you that you always want to measure yourself in your craft.
Mhm.
And this has been therapeutic for me and cathartic because I've once again stepped up to the plate and done the best I could when not feeling 100%. And I hope that I did give you something that you can use
Oh,
because I enjoy being around entrepreneurs like yourself and people with. I always tell my grandkids one thing: promise people. That's my nickname, one of many, that you will conduct your life with passion. I had broadcasters who had all the pipes, they had all the tools, but they lacked the passion. And
oh.
yet I had others who were not as talented, if you will, but they had the passion.
Mhm.
And that stops the listeners. And I'm sure you can relate. It will stop the people in the audience when you're
Yeah.
on stage. They can tell. There's a je ne sais quoi
Mhm.
that they can tell that
Mhm.
you really care. And it's like my late mama used to say, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
And with you being out there when you're not 100%, but giving it your all, then that shows passion and that resonates with people.
Yeah, I think so too. Yes. Well, thank you
So,
so
well,
much.
and I can only wish you a Godspeed. And if I can ever help you in any way, you have my way of reaching me, and I'll be more than happy to help in any way I can. It's been a delight talking to you, Lucinda.
Well,
Thank you.
it's been a delight for me too. Thank you so much.
I hope you not only enjoyed this episode but gained something valuable to take away with you. If you like what you heard, please share it with your friends and give us a rating and or review. If you're a story lover too, I invite you to join my Patreon community at patreon.com/storypower, all one word. Or you might be interested in classic cinema with the Sage Sisters, a YouTube channel and Facebook page I started with my sister Celeste, where we choose one classic movie that we think still has lessons for us today. As you can see, I'm passionate about spreading the love of stories and completely believe what Philip Pullman said. After nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing we need most in the world. Until next time, this is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden. Thanks for listening.